This is Right to Life Radio with John Girardi on Power Talk 96.7 and AM 1400, a production of Right to Life of Central California. And now, here's your host, John Girardi.
AB 2223 is the bill that we are going to talk about today on Right to Life Radio. What is AB 2223 to talk about on this Holy Saturday? Thank you all so much for listening. What is AB 2223?
Kind of the opposite of Holy Saturday.
It's the opposite of Holy Saturday. Yeah, it's the single most insane abortion bill before the state legislature. It's not even really an abortion bill. It's kind of a straight-up infanticide bill. It does have some abortion impacts, and to break it down for all of you and to encourage you to join us for our bus trip to Sacramento for our bus trip to Sacramento. We're taking a bus to Sacramento on Tuesday the 19th to go and lobby against AB 2223. If you're interested in coming, please do get in touch with us at Right to Life of Central California at 229-2229. All right. If you want to learn about AB 2223, the best place to go is Jonathan Keller's California Family Council webpage, and it's easy. It's ab2223.org.
That's it.
And that has all of the resources you need to learn what AB 2223 is and why it is bad. We have talked about it for a couple of weeks, so I think it bears repeating. Jonathan's been following it a bit more closely than me because legislative stuff is Jonathan's kind of main job.
It's our forte.
as opposed to me, where it's one of like 80 things that I do.
Yes.
So, Jonathan, let me do a rundown description of what the bill does, and you can jump in with anything about any amendments to the bill or updates. So the bill has passed the Assembly Judiciary Committee. It's going to be heard in the Assembly Health Committee on Tuesday. And what this bill does, it was sort of prompted by a case out of Kings County, right here in the San Joaquin Valley. In Kings County, a prosecutor tried to bring some kind of wrongful death prosecution against a woman who was a heroin addict who had, I think it was something like her 10th miscarriage or 8th miscarriage.
10th pregnancy.
Her 10th pregnancy that ended in miscarriage.
But her first
due to
her first stillbirth. So I think, John, actually the key is that several of her other pregnancies had resulted in children. Mm-hmm. But I believe, as I understand it, I think every single one of her children, unsurprisingly, had been taken away by Child Protective Services.
Because she was a heroin addict.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So she has this child who's born in a stillbirth. She is then subject to some kind of wrongful death prosecution from the Kings County District Attorney's Office. Jonathan and I have talked about this case on a number of occasions. We don't have even super strong feelings about it one way or another. I think on the one hand, yes, unborn children should be protected. On the other hand, it starts to get dicey when you're talking about people doing unwise things in the course of pregnancy that results in pregnancy loss. Are how do you assign blame to that? Is it really wise to assign criminal penalties to something like that? Obviously, we care about the life of the unborn child. It's a highly factually specific case in Kings County. Anyway, so Jonathan and I are officially recognize that this is a very difficult question that's highly fact specific.
But John, I want to point out something that I think is key on the way this bill is said and the way that the bill is discussed.
Right. And just to clarify for everyone, AB 2223 was written kind of in response to this incident in Kings County. Rob Bonta, the Attorney General of California, flipped out over it. And basically what this bill does is it eliminates, according to the language of the bill, all criminal and civil liability for any kind of miscarriage, any kind of abortion, and any kind of, quote, perinatal death. Now, perinatal death can mean death within the first month after birth, which leaves basically a whole swath of very illegitimate forms of infant demise being no longer, regulated under California law. So anyway, Jonathan, you jump in with the sort of the context here.
There's a lot of language in the bill and different amendments, but let me just read in their own words, not just the statutory language, but let me read the Legislative Council's digest. And to clarify, all these bills, when they're introduced, they have the Legislative Council, the attorneys that are working up there, they say, all right, an act to amend Section 2749 of the Government Code and to amend
Blah, blah,
sections.
blah, blah,
blah,
blah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a
Okay.
ton of stuff, and then they have the legislative findings, and then the sections of the bill, and then the codes are amended to read this and that. So there's all of that, but the Legislative Council's Digest is kind of the Cliff's Notes. It's basically, all right, in plain language,
This is what this thing does.
for the non-attorneys out there, just the plain Jane folks like myself and Raphael. None of those that had the fancy.
Not fancy lawyers like that John Girardi.
That's right.
Yeah.
We don't have any of that fancy Notre Dame schooling.
There you go.
If you look here, I'm gonna skip down, and it says
FPU. FPU. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It says,
What are you guys? The Phoenixes? The Sunbirds?
Sunbirds.
Sunbirds. Go
Yeah,
Sunbirds. There you
yes.
go. Fresno Pacific. Fight.
That's right.
All right. Go for it.
It goes on and it says, all right, existing law requires a county coroner to hold inquests to inquire into and determine the circumstances, manner, and cause of violent, sudden, or unusual deaths, including deaths related to or following known or suspected self-induced or criminal abortion. Existing law requires a coroner to register a field death after 20 weeks of gestation, unless it's the result of a legal abortion. If a physician was not in attendance following the delivery of the fetus, existing law requires the field death to be handled as a death without medical attendance. It also requires the coroner to state on the certificate of fetal death the time of fetal death, the direct cause of fetal death, and the conditions of any that gave rise to those cases.
So basically, this is the state of California exercising appropriate oversight over certain instances or episodes of death.
Yep.
That
I don't know, John.
Yeah.
If a child after 20 weeks along passes away in some capacity, that might be a helpful thing for the state to know about.
maybe. I mean, could if that's a very sudden and rare kind of miscarriage, could that be? Because you may want to examine, like they talk about illegal abortions. Was this a abortion? I'm using scare quotes here. Induced by an abusive boyfriend beating up his girlfriend until she miscarries,
Right?
Or has a stillbirth. Is this there's all kinds of scenarios that could involve violations of law. Even under California law, late-term abortions are only legal under existing California law if a doctor says that the abortion is medically necessary. Okay, post-viability abortions are only legal in California if there is a health reason. Now, a lot of doctors in California just give the rubber stamp that there's a health reason because you're pregnant, but you do need some doctor to okay it. So basically, that's the existing law, that when a child dies without medical supervision or something, there is some kind of inquest by the coroner.
Right.
If a really late miscarriage happens, there's some kind of inquest. And this is the statement of what existing law is.
Right.
All of which AB 2223 is about to change.
Exactly. And there's two parts here, John, under the Council's Digest. We just read part one, and then it says this bill would delete the requirement that a coroner hold inquest for deaths related to or following known or suspected self-induced or criminal abortion, and would delete the requirement that an unattended fetal death be handled as a death without medical attendance. The bill would prohibit the coroner's using the coroner's statements on the certificate of fetal death to establish, bring, or support a criminal prosecution or civil cause of damages against any person.
Yeah,
John,
so, yeah.
any person, not just the mother. It says any person.
Right. So not only are we not going to investigate these suspicious kinds of deaths, we are going to directly disincentivize anyone from ever trying to investigate them under threat of being sued.
That's next. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
but even if they do, I mean, if a coroner, like this, frankly, the Kings County District Attorney, I mean, I don't know him personally, but from everything I've read, he sounds like he is a pro-life individual.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he was trying to be a pro-life crusader in this case that we talked about. He was just trying to apply the law.
Right. And by the way, I should say that we're not like condemning him.
No.
No. Because, I mean, again, it's so fact-specific, these cases, and I don't trust going entirely off of media reports. But yeah, I mean, what this bill is going to do is completely take away any kind of legal protection for, as the bill calls it, perinatal death. And let me just break that down, etymology boy over here. Peri is the Greek preposition. It means around. So around birth deaths, near birth deaths, perinatal deaths, deaths that occur because of in and around the process of childbirth. No criminal or civil liability for perinatal death. That's how overly broadly written this thing is. And in spite of the fact that the California Catholic Conference has worked with the author of the bill, Buffy Wicks, to amend this language, the amendments aren't in.
Yep.
She's not amending it.
Yep. Well, she did add a very trivial phrase, John, but it is so trivial as to be meaningless.
Right.
She said perinatal death due to pregnancy-related cause. And everybody that we've seen, from Alliance Defending Freedom to the American Center for Law and Justice to Dean Broyles at the National Center for Law and Policy, I mean, nobody thinks that this means anything.
Yeah.
And even the Catholic Conference, and I don't say that to throw them under the bus. I'm just saying they had tried to work with Assemblymember Wicks.
They admitted in their most recent letter against that they thought, while they did try to work on it, this was an insufficient amendment. This was an insufficient amendment. They're not satisfied with it either. Yeah.
Right. And so let me read real quick here. I think that might be a little bit. My microphone was acting up a bit there, but let me read, John, the second part of the bill here.
Okay.
Again, from the Legislative Council's Digest. Not every single subsection and every single bit of legalese, but it says, existing law, the Reproductive Privacy Act, provides that every individual possesses a fundamental right of privacy with respect to their personal reproductive decisions. Existing law prohibits the state from interfering with a pregnant person's right to choose or obtain an abortion before the fetus is viable, or when it is necessary to protect the life and health of the pregnant person. Well, John, I love that they've slid that in.
Yeah, we don't have pregnant women anymore. They're all just pregnant persons.
Under existing law, an abortion is unauthorized if either the person performing the abortion is not a healthcare provider, or or if the fetus is viable. This bill would prohibit a person from being subject to civil or criminal liability or otherwise deprived of their rights based on their actions, John, very key phrase, their actions or omissions.
That's the key.
With respect to their pregnancy or actual, potential, or alleged pregnancy outcome, or based solely on their actions to aid or assist a pregnant person who is exercising their reproductive rights.
So this bill is not just giving kind of carte blanche to women who are pregnant here. This is giving carte blanche to doctors, nurses, and Planned Parenthood, like everybody. I mean, it's a major rewrite of California abortion law. Like it's really far more dramatic than proponents of the bill are making this out to be. Like
right.
we're seeing California engaging in a massive rewriting of its abortion law mere months before Roe v. Wade might be overturned, without really advertising it as such to the voters of the state. So this is just totally horrific.
Well, and so let me read the rest of that paragraph here. It says, this bill would clarify that an abortion is unauthorized. They say if, but I should really say only if it is performed by a person other than the pregnant person, and either the person performing the abortion is not a healthcare provider that is authorized, or the fetus is viable. But the key point here is the abortion is unauthorized only if the person is not the pregnant person. Basically,
right.
A woman can self-abort her pregnancy at any stage.
At any stage. So we've effectively...
There is no viability standard.
Late-term abortion, the most dangerous kind of late-term abortion, is now legal in California. Self-abortions, because we don't actually care on the left that abortion be safe, legal, and certainly don't care about it being rare anymore. We'll have more digging into this and all the other bad pieces of pro-choice legislation at the state legislature next. This is Right to Life Radio on Power Talk. World. Right to Life Radio. Thank you all so much. All right, Jonathan. So I wish AB 2223, the horrible bill that basically legalizes infanticide in the state of California. I mean, let's be upfront about this.
Yep.
If you're eliminating all criminal and civil liability for perinatal death, and you're really not giving very many specifics about, or qualifications or anything like that, kind of hard to really interpret it any other way. The language of the bill is so broad in its zeal to defend someone's right to have an abortion, to have an at-home abortion, in the specific ways in which it immunizes people for failing to provide care. So one of the big risks here is the kind of Ralph Northam situation. So for those who want to go back in time, blast for the past, former governor of Virginia, Dr. Ralph Northam, last seen
Dr. Blackface.
Well, it could have been a Ku Klux Klan
That's
outfit.
true, John.
Yeah. Hey, let's be fair to the man.
I shouldn't malign his choice of racist attire.
How dare you malign this good man by saying he was in blackface when he very well could have been in a Ku Klux Klan outfit. I got to say, my dad was in medical school around the same time as Ralph Northam, and didn't wear either thing.
I'm shocked. How did he make it out of medical school?
Although my dad's best friend, one of my dad's best doctor's friend, shout out to Dr. Allshouse. I hope he's listening. I don't even know if I should tell this story. Let's just say Dr. Allshouse was in charge of his med school yearbook, and he really should not have been put in charge of his med school yearbook. He created a fictional medical school student that was just him with a really stupid look on his face, and he had a very... let's just say he had a very crude name. Like how in The Simpsons when Bart would prank call Moe's Bar and say,
right.
"Hey, Seymour Butts, Seymour." It was like that, only more crude. Anyway, shout out to Dr. Allshouse. Great. He and his wife adopted two children with Down syndrome, and they have one Down syndrome kid of their own. So they're pretty awesome pro-lifers. So anyway, boy, we got completely off track. So many of AB 2223 is not the only bill that's being heard in Sacramento on the day that we are going up there. So, Jonathan, can you maybe pull up the list?
Yeah, of course.
And we will talk about it probably in this segment and next, because it's bad enough that AB 2223 is being heard. It's bad enough that AB 2223 is being heard to basically anyway, the reason I talked about Governor Northam was because of Governor Northam's infamous interview like a week before the whole blackface / Klan outfit controversy came about, where he was on a radio interview. Someone asked about what happens in situations where a child might survive a late-term abortion, and Governor Northam said, well, in a circumstance like that, the doctor and the mother would maybe have a conversation.
The child will be kept comfortable while the family had a conversation.
Right.
About what was going to happen.
And basically what he was saying was, we would deprive this child of care, not on the basis of his healthcare needs and our care capacity, our capacity to help this child.
Or potentially even the viability
or the viability of the child or anything like that. We would decide not to provide this kid with care on the basis of, we don't want this kid. And that's exactly, with almost explicitly in those kinds of words, that's what California is legalizing. All right, so Jonathan, rather than giving a rump segment to all these different bad bills, we're going to take a break right now. And when we come back, we're going to provide you with the full rundown of all of the bad bills that are going to be heard in Sacramento this upcoming Tuesday, all of the bad abortion bills, and there are a lot of them. Next, on Right to Life Radio, a production, as always, of Right to Life of Central California, rtlcc.org. Get in touch with us, info@rtlcc.org, if you are interested in taking the bus with us to Sacramento on Tuesday, the 19th, to go against AB 2223. Back with more bad California pro-choice legislation next. This is Right to Life Radio. All right, Jonathan. So you got as I loudly drop my phone in the course of a radio show. All right, Jonathan, let's go through the list.
All right.
So these are all, or most, as we continue knocking things down in the studio.
Just a mild earthquake here at the
fine.
Right to Life
It's fine.
studios.
Don't worry about it. AB 2223, which we've discussed at length in the first half of the show, is not the only bad bill. In fact, we should understand that this is happening in the context of Governor Newsom trying to transform California into an abortion sanctuary state, which, as we've described, is basically his attempt to make, if other states can't have abortions because of the Dobbs case in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, the big Supreme Court case that's about to drop regarding abortion, basically every state will be able to regulate abortion as they want if that case goes the right way. And basically, Governor Newsom wants everyone to fly to California to get an abortion if they can't get one in their home state.
Well,
so,
and John, you think he doesn't just want them to fly here because, hey, if you were just looking at this as an economic stimulus package for California, you could say, hey, come to California. We've got, beautiful sandy beaches. We've got, gorgeous coastal redwoods and all the abortion you could want.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
and the key thing with all the abortion you want, it's all of the state-funded abortion you can want.
And that's the key trick, John, that changes this from even just a neutral, you can't hardly call it neutral, but theoretically, if you were looking at this completely dispassionately and you ignored the fact that this is, killing children, if you just looked at this in terms of a red state versus blue state situation, you could say, we have economic freedom in our state for you to engage in this medical practice of your choice. But it goes so far beyond that, John, because one of the bills that is going to have a hearing this next Tuesday is SB 1142.
All right.
And this is the bill that we have called, some people call it the abortion vacay bill. We're calling it the abortion scholarship bill or tourism bill.
Right.
And essentially what this does is not only is Newsom saying, well, look, we're a location for you to come and get that thing that you cannot get in your own state.
Right.
We are instead saying, hey, if you are feeling like you want an abortion, not only can you get it here in California, not only can you potentially get it for free in California, but we will now partner with private organizations and we will provide direct grant funds. No specific dollar amount authorized yet, but potentially in the millions or even tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
Money that goes to private organizations that are then going to completely underwrite the cost for you to get to California, for you to have a hotel stay, potentially even lost wages
to recover your lost wages so you can fly to California to get an abortion.
Yeah, if you are if you're a worker in a state like Texas. And, look at this horrible state. Not only do they not offer abortions, why, they don't even give you paid medical leave for you to go and get an abortion.
Oh.
So now you could basically...
California paid medical leave for out-of-state residents, non-Californians,
and
to fly into California.
Yes.
So the suite of bills will let's chart the course of a pregnancy for a woman in Texas. Okay, and Texas being the paradigmatic example here because Texas has effectively banned abortion through the heartbeat bill. You get pregnant in Texas, you decide you want an abortion, you can't get an abortion in Texas. California will pay for you to fly to California through some private entity that will be funded by the state through some kind of grant. We will pay to fly you to California, put you up in a hotel in California, give you Medi-Cal coverage to pay for your abortion in California, for which, by the way, you have no out-of-pocket costs, provide you with child care in California, provide you with back wages or with missed pay from your job in Texas that you took time off of.
You literally could say,
to fly out here.
I was going to work 40 hours this week, but because of travel and check-in time and recovery time, this is my pay stub. This is what I would have made, but now look, I'm not making this. So, John, literally, it's not when we say it's a vacation or if we say it's a scholarship, it's not just that we're saying if you can get yourself here, the abortion is free.
Right.
At minimum, again, this is horrible.
Which would be bad enough.
It's horrible and monstrous. But at least if you said that, at least Newsom could be making the comment and saying, well, look, we're going to keep it deregulated. If you want to come and pay for it, we'll make it as easy for you to get here.
And not to become like a this is not a forum for like fiscal conservative talk or anything, but I will just note, and maybe this is just a personal John Girardi opinion because I'm bitter because I have friends who live in other states where they have a budget surplus, and their state's response to the budget surplus is just to give money back to the taxpayers.
Yes.
That California has a massive budget surplus, and instead of cutting any of our extremely high taxes in California, or maybe just giving us a refund, giving us a check back, instead we're going to take our massive surplus and pay for everyone in America to fly to California to get abortions, to pay for their airfare, their lodging, their child care, their back pay for all of this stuff. Meanwhile, we're facing massive inflation. Gas prices in California are totally out of control. Lodging costs are out of control. Rents are up. Home values are too expensive.
Well,
and with all of that, the state wants to take this massive record budget surplus, and instead of giving any money back to the taxpayers of California, again, it's Right to Life, Central California. We take no position on fiscal issues here. However, they're going to spend it all on abortion.
Well, let me tell you, John, I thought, and I was looking to see on YouTube, I don't think that it's posted. You could go find it from last week's hearing on SB 1142 in the Senate Health Committee. Our friend, Molly Sheehan, who works for the California Catholic Conference. Molly, if you're listening, hi, hello from us. She did a phenomenal job in her testimony. I mean, literally, John, you know how stupid these hearings are. She had 90 seconds because the previous speaker had gone just a little bit over. So Molly had 90 seconds to get this point across.
It's okay. It's only legislation that's going to affect 40 million people.
Oh, yeah.
So don't worry about
it. Who cares?
Democracy in action.
But
just like they drew it up in ancient Athens.
Molly did a phenomenal job in those 90 seconds of pointing out just the complete hypocrisy of the people on that committee. And the thing I loved about it, John, was that she used all of the Democrats' buzzwords against them.
Yeah.
As it relates to, she talked about, look, we're very concerned about equity. And it's clear that the people, just as a practical matter, the segment of society that tends to have the most disparate pay outcomes are single women who are mothers.
Right.
Working women have a much harder time attaining financial parity with males who are unmarried and don't have kids. It's also true that for a lot of women, they have difficulty finishing their education. They have difficulty being able to care for their kids, whether it's schooling, whether it's lodging, whether it's clothes. There are all sorts of barriers to working women and also to families with lots of kids, as opposed to, single income, no kid individuals.
Yeah.
And, or double income, no kid individuals.
Yes. Yeah.
Dinks, as they say, D-I-N-K.
Dinks and sinks. Yeah.
But the crazy thing, John, is that she did a good job of saying, for all the money that we're talking about here, I mean, it's not just, here's $300 to pay for the abortion.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of this thing, between state subsidies for
$500 plane ticket.
Yeah, but the state subsidy for your Medi-Cal coverage for this abortion. I mean, the abortion itself costs a couple $100.
Yep.
The
lodging,
back
transfer
pay.
To and from the airport.
I mean, you're talking about
food.
a couple of $1,000s a pop.
Literally, you could be talking for each one of these abortions that's out of state. You could be talking.
I don't know,
$2,000, $3,000,
$3,000. Yeah.
And literally, if you look at the Future of Abortion Council's report, John, I'm not even kidding. They say that currently the out-of-state number of abortions are about 45,000.
So 45,000 women come from right now.
That's right now.
Roughly 45,000 women come from other states to have abortions in California.
So if you just assume that it's only $2,000 per person, that's $90 million that you're talking about in spending for these women. But John,
90 million here, 90 million there. Eventually, you're talking real money.
Well,
but now let's imagine a scenario where 26 states have banned abortion. So what's that number going to become? It's going to be a lot higher than 45,000.
Well, John, that's the thing that I was going to tell you.
And they want it to be higher. They know it's going to be higher than 45,000.
The number in the Future of Abortion Council document that they propose could be the new number of out-of-state abortions in California.
1.4 million?
That is literally what they say in the document.
Wow.
Is 1.4 million. So that means an annual cost.
Which makes That makes no sense, though. There are only 800,000 abortions per year.
I know. They're literally, and this is the thing that's crazy to me. They're basically saying, John, I hate to say this, it sounds horribly gruesome, but if you knew that, well, yeah, I could do a pill abortion in my backyard in Texas.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I've always wanted to see California.
So they're thinking this is going to increase the number of abortions nationally total, and they're all going to come together. Now, maybe they're just completely out to lunch. But let's just assume it's only 140,000 rather than 1.4 million. That would be almost a $100,000 increase. So we're talking about $200 million.
$280 million.
Yeah.
And that's, again, John, that's just through this one program. That doesn't include all of the other ways that they are trying to underwrite Planned Parenthood clinics, and the fact that other bills, John, we're going to run out of time in the show to talk about all the other bills, but there's different bills here that deal with expanding the number of clinicians who can perform abortions. There's ones regarding
paying off medical school debt for OBs who want to do abortions.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the big one. That instead of Teach for America, where, hey, look, you go serve a underserved community somewhere in the nation, and we will pay off your credential so that you've earned your teaching credential, and all you got to do is go invest 2 years in a community. I have a friend who did that. He got his teaching credential, and then he moved out to a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee. It was a very poor neighborhood, very poor community, and he taught for a couple of years. But instead of Teach for America, which I think is a noble program,
this is
you would have
Abort for California.
Abort for California.
Yeah.
And in this case, with the recruitment from around the country, it would still be Abort for America.
Right. All right. Well, we'll dig into more of these bills after the break. But as you can see, gosh, this state sucks sometimes. Good Lord. It's just a madhouse. It's just mad to see, Florida passing a 15-week abortion ban, and meanwhile, we're going completely overboard the other direction. We'll dig more into it next on Right to Life Radio. Thank you so much for listening to Right to Life Radio, rtlcc.org. Let us know if you want to come with us on our bus trip to Sacramento. Email us at info@rtlcc.org. Visit our Facebook page. We've got the whole link there to sign up for our bus trip, facebook.com/righttolifeca. Jonathan, it's frustrating being a Californian. I was just messaging on Facebook, your state counterpart in the great state of Florida.
Yes.
John Stemberger, who runs what's the name of his organization?
The Florida Family Policy Council.
The Florida Family Policy Council.
Really great guy. John's one of my best buds in the movement.
Yeah, and John's a lawyer. He is a lawyer, right?
He is.
Yeah.
He is indeed.
John's a lawyer, and his organization has worked pretty closely with Ron DeSantis and the legislature in Florida to pass some good bills. They just passed a bill basically to exactly mirror the Mississippi bill that's the subject of the Dobbs case, banning abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy. So while they are doing stuff like that, we in California are going the other way. And I guess the thing that terrifies me, Jonathan, is that this is stuff like this doesn't just stay confined to one state legislature.
Yes.
And the ideas that the California legislature has often get exported to other liberal state legislatures. That's just the way these things are. Legislation in one state gets copycatted in other states, and advocacy groups that work in one state work in other states, and blah, blah, blah. And, there was some debate on the right several months ago about, should we try to push for arguing that Roe v. Wade should be overturned on the basis that the Constitution says nothing about abortion? Or shouldn't we have tried to argue that the 14th Amendment protects the right to life? That the Equal Protection Clause, that basically we should interpret the Constitution as protecting the right to life, liberty, and property without due process of law. And that protection of life that's contained in the 14th Amendment and 5th Amendment, that extends to unborn children. And thus that abortion is not only something is not simply something that should be regulated on a state-by-state basis, but it's something that the Constitution itself should forbid. And a lot of, I guess, the standard operating viewpoint on the right, this was the view of Scalia, this is the view of a lot of people on the right, is that, well, no, the Constitution just has nothing to say about abortion, and so every state should be able to regulate it.
Originalism. Look, the people weren't thinking about abortion at the time of the ratification of the 14th Amendment.
Right. In spite of the fact that a lot of people were thinking about abortion, like the same legislature in Ohio that passed an abortion ban also ratified the 14th Amendment. Every state in the union was passing abortion bans before, during, and after the 14th Amendment. Actually, everyone was thinking about the 14th Amendment, whatever. So I just find it that, so California is setting itself up. I'm going to bring this thought all the way around. Bear with me here. California is setting itself up to be an abortion magnet. So if you live in a state where abortion is illegal, because if Dobbs is overturned, every state will write its own abortion laws. A bunch of states will ban abortion. Okay. California, on the other hand, will try to be an abortion magnet. Come to California. We'll pay for your abortion. We'll pay for your airfare. We'll pay for it all. Will every pro-choice state start adopting what California is doing? And will we have a society much like the pre-Civil War South in certain senses, where half the states were slavery magnets,
yes,
and the other half were free states, where half the states coming up, if Dobbs goes the way we sort of at least kind of hope it does, that half the states will be abortion magnets, and the other half of the states will be free states, will be states where unborn children's lives are protected under law.
And John,
it's kind of a terrifying future in a way. Like, I'm glad that pro-life states will protect the right to life, but it's terrifying to think that if California is starting this way, then New York's going to follow, and all these other blue states.
And I am as hopeful as you and anybody that Dobbs, overturning Roe by itself would be a huge victory.
It would be.
And I don't think we should discount that. But
right.
Could it be, God forbid, that this is maybe the Missouri Compromise of the abortion battle?
I think so. I really do. And I think it would need to be settled. This needs to be settled at a federal level.
And hopefully not by
I'm not saying a civil war. I'm saying I think federal legislation needs to come around. I think someday...
Maybe even a constitutional amendment.
Well, that would be the best. But I think at some point Republicans will get enough of a majority, and someone's at some point is going to abolish the filibuster rule in the Senate, and we're going to just need to ban abortion at the federal level. I hope that is something that can happen someday. That'll do it for Right to Life Radio. Hope to see you on Tuesday on the bus to Sacramento. God bless. We'll see you next time.
Happy Easter.